So if you spend any time as a designer online looking for how to improve as a designer, how to increase your popularity, how to get in front of the right customers if you're a freelancer or agency owner, then you've probably come across Chris Doe and his brilliant platform, The Futur. Now, I got to be on his show recently, and this is what happened.
All right, hey, Chris, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. My first question was going to be, how do you make all this content? But you've answered that now. So my second question to you, Chris, is from books I've read recently, like Essentialism and The One Thing and that kind of thing. It talks about focusing on your strengths. What's your key strength as a creative and as someone running these platforms, and how do you increase that strength and cover where your weaknesses are?
Okay. I think my key strength is that I really like teaching. I like to share what I know, and if I got paid a ton of money to do it, all I would ever do in my life is sit around and teach and share with people what I know. And I don't do it purely from a selfless point of view. I learned a lot by teaching, because when a student comes back and asks me, how did you come up with that idea? Or how do you brainstorm around this thing? Or how do you get past a creative block? That's where I'm able to shine, because I sit there and I crawl into my mind and I start to think about, well, how did I come up with that? And it's those questions, those interactions that I get that actually make me think about my process and then to be able to share it openly. I think that's one of my strengths. The other thing is I love graphic design. I love filmmaking. And so if I look at my strengths and I combine them together, there's no coincidence why I'm doing this on YouTube. I love to teach, and there's a lot of equipment here, filmmaking tools that we're using, and I'm able to bring all those things together and share openly, okay? Hey, how come we're not cutting to his screen? There we go, thank you. All right, you got another question?
So with the explosion of designers on YouTube, I've noticed a lot of people like yourself vlogging, putting content out. So there's obviously now a lot of younger designers learning from YouTube. Do you think online learning will replace classroom learning, or do you think there's always a place for classroom style learning for design?
That's a great question. I'm not sure. I don't, oddly enough, even though we're called The Future, I don't like to make bold predictions about what happens in the future. I want to have my finger on the pulse of what's happening. I like to embrace technology. I like to experiment and try different things. And the audience ultimately will tell me where it needs to be. My best guess right now, it will be a hybrid, okay? It'll be a lot of distance-based learning where you get the smartest people, the best producers to record content, and then that gets distributed so that you can watch it whenever you want. Let's say you're a night owl and in the morning your brain doesn't function as well, okay? So that it makes no sense for you to go to class at 10 a.m. because not much of it is gonna penetrate your skull. And I get that. And so if we adopt a more hybrid model in terms of education, you can learn when you want, you can pause as many times as you want, you can rewatch, you can take notes, and so that also eliminates, I think, a strange thing. A professor comes into the classroom, there's lectures and notes and all these kinds of things, and you're trying to write instead of paying attention. I think the classroom time should be spent on engagement, asking questions, doing work together with your hands. So if we're able to optimize our classroom experience via video-based, distance-based learning, and then bring people together and see each other and kind of react to things, I think that's probably a really good model.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Okay.
And then my other, if I've still got time, my other question to you, Chris, is I've watched you become more and more of a leader in this place. I'm assuming you have less and less time actually designing and on the tools. How do you kind of feed your design side and creative side and make sure you're still active design-wise whilst learning as well and teaching?
Okay. I want to clarify some things. A lot of people have wondered how much actual hands-on work I get to do, and the answer is very little. And that's not just because I'm doing this whole Future podcast video thing. That's not because of that. I've done very little hands-on work since the beginning. I always saw myself as a person who was able to connect a problem with a solution, right? Sometimes the solution was me, oftentimes it's somebody else. I like to bring in the best designers that I can find and have them solve the problem for me. And I just guide and manage the process. So I don't miss doing the work at all. And if I want to do work, I have all the time in the world to do it. But I've built up an incredible team, executive producers, creative directors, digital strategy director, designers, art directors, this amazing team who you throw anything at, they're going to be able to solve. And I like sitting back and saying, wow, I have the blessing and the great privilege of putting together such an amazing group of people that are genuinely people that I would like to hang out with that do such incredible things. And so that's the hands-on part, right? Now, how do I stay fresh? How do I stay relevant? All that kind of stuff. I was just recently reading an article about, I think it's called the five hour thing, where if you're a life learner, you should dedicate 1 hour every single day for the Monday through Friday to learn something, creating slack time for you to learn and for your brain to be creative. Now, let me explain that a little bit. First of all, I do describe myself as a life learner. I'm forever curious about things. I want to learn lots of things. So to me, an hour seems very low. 1 hour per day for 5 days, it's really low for me, okay? The other thing that I noticed too is that when I'm not thinking about a deadline, an issue going on at the office, I'm a lot more creative. If I'm on vacation, for example, with my wife and kids, I have two little boys. Anyways, when I'm on vacation with them, I find that after the initial, like I'm on vacation mindset, and day 2 or 3, I'm writing and I'm more creative than I've ever been because it's that boredom that breeds the creativity. So if you're busy doing stuff all the time, when do you have time to learn? When do you create slack time for the creative, magical stuff to happen? And I think your brain waves, if it's not being pressured to come up with stuff all the time, it's able to open up. And you'll notice the content has been changing and we keep developing more content because essentially I try to keep 10, 12, 14 hours of slack time available to me every single day. I'm out there reading books, I'm engaging with people, I'm trying to answer questions, I'm looking for answers to questions, and that's what I'm doing. I hope that was that good enough for you, Chris?
Brilliant, fantastic.
Okay, thank you very much. And I don't know who's on deck for number 2.